Hi, my name is Jamal Ashraf, and today we want to talk about the loops. I'm trying to look at it in a different angle. Hopefully, it's going to help you to understand it better, or I'm hoping that's not going to confuse you more than what you're looking at in your text. So let me share you my screen. Okay, so I am going to uh, from the beginning. And I'm going to swap this presentation. Okay, so I'm going to put this one on and let's move on. So we're going to be talking about loops. So there is something that we want to repeat over and over and over, and that it is going to be for automation. It's going to be things that we are doing a repeating task, and that's what we are talking about right now. So some of example I was looking at. This is a knowing kid in a car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I don't know. You guys see that or not? A coffee loop. I'm going to keep drinking coffee till I'm not sleepy anymore, or I have more energy. Or a student who keeps saying, "1 more minute, please. 1 more minute, please," at the end of the test or something like that. So let's look at this and comparing to the loops that we are talking about and see how we go with that. So the model that I want to emphasize on is not my model, but this is the way I look at it. So my model is set, check, change. That's SCC. So the set is before I start any loop, I have to know where am I starting. I have to have some initialization. I have to start from somewhere. And then I'm going to check that condition to see if that condition is going to be met. And one thing that I have to be sure is I'm going to be changing that original value. Otherwise, I'm going to stay in that loop forever. I remember a long time ago, I was talking about somebody being on the roof, and they say to keep going back. And because it didn't have a condition, the person was keep going back till it fell off on the other side. Uh, so let's look at this. Remember what I'm saying: set, check, and change. And we have to be checking for the infinite loop. Infinite loops are the one that goes inside of the loop and it stays there forever. And of course, we have another way of saying that we may never ever go inside the loop. So we check for both sides of it. All right, so let's go back to our example and see how we can apply the SCC to that. Okay, so if the question is, are we there yet? What are we setting? What are we checking? And what are we changing? And how do we check for infinite loop? So definitely I have to set where I am starting, correct? Because I have to start from somewhere. It is my home or is the destination of rest area or somewhere. We are starting from somewhere. And then the checking is what? If we got to that destination, wherever we're going. And of course, that change is what? Part of my driving. If we are driving, we're going to get closer to the destination. If we are not driving, then we are not going to get to the destination. So the infinite loop is going to be what? If my condition doesn't change inside of this loop. So either I stop driving, or for some people who don't know about checking the direction, is passing the destination and not get there. Okay, how about the coffee? I'm going to be drinking coffee because I need to get some energy. Some students wait for last minute and they want to cram, I don't know, 10 weeks of work in 2 nights and they keep drinking coffee. So, what do we set for the first thing? The setting for drinking coffee is what? The condition that I have is what? I'm either sleepy or I don't have enough energy. So that would be my set value. The condition I'm checking is if I'm not sleepy anymore or if I have energy. So the change is what? Just drinking coffee. Now, the infinite loop is going to be what? I'm just going to keep drinking off my coffee. I'm not going to stop, or my condition never going to change. These are just some funny examples. Maybe when I look at some more important ones. And the last one is, you have a exam in the classroom, and by the time it's over, it is that one student keeps saying, 1 minute, please, 1 minute, please. So for this one, I'm just going to put a counter. I want to say how many times I can just give this person to say 1 minute. So I'm going to put a counter. So that would be my set value. In this case, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to give him 5 times to say that. Okay. So for the check, I'm going to check my counter to be 5. So that means what? My counter has to start from somewhere. It has to initialize to 1, 0, or some other number, and then I check it to be sure it's going to get to where I'm looking for. And I have to definitely add 1 to my counter every time I go through this. So this is his first time, this is his second time, this is her or his fourth time, and so on and so on. And the infinite loop is going to be what? If I don't have a counter and I keep doing it and doing it and doing it, or if I set an initial value, but instead of adding, I would be deducting, or instead of adding 1, I might be adding 2. So for example, if I start at the 0 and I add 2 and I'm checking for 5, if I am checking for 5, I am not ever going to get to that. So those are the things that we got to be careful about. So when we're thinking about infinite condition, we have to check what it is going to be. So a rule of thumb is we don't want to do exact match. We want to use less than or greater than, so we don't jump over this to stay in an infinite loop. And this is a typical thing in the while loop. Okay, so we have a while loop and we have a for loop. Let's go over the design that we have on the while loop first, and then we go with the for loop. Okay, so we're going to be applying our SCC, set, check, change. So with the while loop, we're going to set our initial value before the while loop because we want to be sure that the condition is correct to go inside the while loop. Because if the condition is not correct, we don't even go inside the loop. We're just going to jump over it. We're going to have a condition inside the statement, something like if counter is less than 5, I'm going to set the counter to 0, 1, whatever I want, and then I'm going to check it to see if it's less than 5. Excuse me. And then I'm going to be sure that I'm going to change that counter inside. The most common thing in the place for the changes is the last line in my block. That way I'll be sure that everything is done before I change things, and then I check it to be sure. So right after I change it, I can check it to see if it reached to that. If I don't put this one on the last line, then even though it would reach to that number that I'm looking for, it has some statement to execute. So we want to always put this as a last line in the block. Now, for the for loop, it's going to be a little safer because we're going to put the set, check, and change right all in one statement. So we're going to have our starting point, we have our end point, and we have the step. So we are starting with a number. We're going to go over with, we can add 1, we can deduct 1, we can add 2, we can deduct 2, however steps we want to do. The key here is the end is exclusive. That means it doesn't count this. It goes next to it. So if I have a start 1 and 5, step 1, when it gets to 5, it's going to get out. So let's look at some example here. So one of the example is for I in range 1, 5, 1. So my starting point is 1. I'm starting with 1. I want to end right before 5, and I'm going to go 1. I can have this positive or negative. I'm going up with 1. So what's going to give me is 1, 2, 3, 4. So this loop is going to run 4 times. So if I intended to run this loop for 5 times, this is not the way to do it. So how do we fix that? We start with 0. And later on, we learn more about how and why most of the programmers starting with the 0 index instead of 1. But that's not the place for it for now. So if I change the first one to 0, I'm going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4. So this loop is going to run 5 times. That's what I wanted to do. Now, Python is a very user-friendly language. That's what is getting so popular and so many people like it. And one of those things are function overload. We're going to look at this in the next chapter. That means if I have 3 numbers, we call them 3 parameters here, we can eliminate one of them. So if I don't put this 1, automatically it's going to put 1 in it for me. So 0, 5 is the same as 0, 5, 1. I can even go further and eliminate the first one. So if I eliminate the first one, it's going to start at 0. If I eliminate the last one, it's going to always step positive 1. So the last 3 are exactly the same thing. Maybe for those who are just starting, maybe this one is better because understanding how it works. And as you go down, you can practice it more and you learn more about it. So this is a while loop that we have a balance less than the target balance. We are adding a year, we're calculating the balance again, and then we're going to keep doing it till to get to the balance that we are looking for. So I have money deposited somewhere, or I'm gaining some rate, and then I want to know when do I reach to that target balance. Okay, now, where is my set in this case? I don't have any set. That means if my balance was starting at greater than target, it wouldn't go even inside of this. Or if my balance is starting would it be some random number, then we're going to have some issues going into. But because we are calculating the balance over here, and then right after that, we're going to check it. So this loop can keep going till we get to the target balance. For the for loop, again, we are using set, check, change to start, end, and step. Remember that the end is exclusive. That means you never get to that end. So we have to watch for infinite loop. This usually happens with the while loop. It does happen with the for loop. And that's where you're going to get into the loop. Either your program terminates or your computer crashes. Something is going to happen because you go inside and it never get out. So in here, I have a year. I set it to 1. I'm checking for 10, but I'm not changing. Remember, set check is there, but I'm not changing. So it's going to keep doing this forever. Another thing that we want to keep looking at is off by 1. So we got to be careful with less than or equal. So if I say less than or equal 5 or less than 5, that's going to be a 1 index difference. Some people like to use their counter at 1 and do less than or equal 5, or the other way would be 0 or less than 5. Okay, these are the things that we have in the book that is talking about how to do our loops, and that's what you got to use it in your design, and you got to follow those steps that we have in the book. We We're going to be talking about the debugger, but one of the ways of doing it is to have some hand tracing ledger, or we call them testing. So we would have some test data, we would test it, and especially we want to check the boundaries. So if I am checking for n greater than 0, I want to have n more than 0. I want to have it n less than 0. I want to have n equal 0, and so on and so forth, and have some numbers to be sure that I am going through it. So I want to calculate some of these things by hand and then test it to be sure it's doing what it is doing correctly, testing my program. So in this case, we are using the sentinel value. We're going to keep doing our loop till we get to a sentinel value, and we're going to stop. So in this case, my set is getting the input for the salary. My check is if the input is not -1, and the change is I'm going to get the input again. So my salary is going to keep changing, and if the user put -1, then it's going to stop this loop. Of course, we want to add one more thing over here, and that would be the user friendly. So I'm going to run this one, but the user doesn't know -1 is going to terminate this loop. So I would put some kind of a warning to be a little more user friendly. Please enter the salary terminated by -1, and I can repeat that at the bottom of it. Remember, the condition that we're changing always going to be, in my point of view, at the end of this block. And then we tell them that if you put -1, we're going to stop. You're going to keep giving me salaries. I'm adding it to the total. If you give me -1, I'm going to stop right there. So I'm going to stop right here. I didn't want to make this too long one. Send me your questions. Let's talk about it more. And then tell me what else can we work on.